we'll just do a little bit of a review from the lecture just to see who all had a chance to sit and enjoy Kick Ass and watch it. Yes. And then we'll get to share some of your work. As always, I don't force anyone to share their work out loud if they don't want to, but I highly encourage it. It's an invitation to share your hard work with the rest of the class. And practice public speaking. So you could mark that off as like an extra thing in your, you could count that in credits, like public speaking. This week I read my stuff in front of a group of people. So, and then we'll get to what your homework is going to be for this upcoming week. So, your homework and grades. That was the first thing that I covered in the lecture video, and that's what took a long time. Because I trust me, I do feel guilty about asking people to step outside their comfort zone. I want people to feel comfortable in my class, but I also really would appreciate it if people would if all the students could have their cameras on. Because like I just mentioned, it's similar to being in a classroom setting and everybody has their hood over their head and draws the strings and like nobody can see anybody. And like you could be asleep and I don't know. So I like to see, if you're bored in the class, I'll be able to tell because I'll see the like the drool coming off, like, come on, Mrs. Eads, wrap it up. So it's helpful to you to have your camera on. I will respond to facial expressions. This group over here. All right, I'm seeing cameras. There's Ben and Tegan's trying to get hers on. And then we've got Ian. I'm so happy you get to see Ian on there too. That's great. All right, so jumping ahead, what can you tell me about genre fiction? Oh, and grades too. That was the other part. I just wanted to make sure that everyone, if you didn't get a chance to make it through the lecture video yet, was okay, and that's okay, Tegan. You can try to keep playing with it. I understand. You're trying. That counts for trying. But so if you can get it working, that's awesome. But anyways, just back to grades real quick. I switched things up just a little bit. Really, I was giving completes or incompletes before and counting that as like, full credits towards turning in your assignments. But I realized that in adding up points for things, I only have we're doing 7 papers throughout the course of the year, and that's a lot of pressure on you guys. So this way, if you're just turning in your homework each week, you get points. If you follow the directions and just get it into me, full points. If you don't turn it in, there's no points. So just make sure that you are able to turn in any submissions. You can turn it in late to me. I promise I will work with you and your schedules because I know how life goes. Sometimes there's just going to be instances where you can't get it in on time that week. Just let me know. You can turn work in late and you'll still get full points, okay? So just make sure you're doing your assignments. The assignments that we're doing in class, I know that the writing may feel a little bit much for some of you if you're new to a class where there's like a lot of writing all the time. But the reason I do that is because I don't like quizzes and tests, and because I can get that information anyway. I don't need, why do I want to look at a sheet of paper that has A, B, C, or whatever, or fill in the blank? Anyone can go to Google and look up those answers. I want you to reflect on what we're reading, and you tell me what you got out of it. That's what your writing tells me, is that you read the material and that you're able to tell me it from your point of view. How did you experience the text? That is more meaningful to me than just telling me what happened in the book. I've read the book. I know what happens, so I don't need like papers to tell me what happened. Tell me how it happened to you. How did you experience it? So that's why we're talking so much about authenticity in our writing, our passions, all those things go into that. Okay, so genre fiction. From the lecture, who can tell me what is genre fiction? Crickets. No. Ladies, go.
Yeah, I was like thinking.
Hmm. Well, what can you gather from even the title? I mean,
It's like literature, but it's fiction.
kind of. You're half right. It's anyone know? This group of people's over here. What is genre fiction? What's a genre?
A type of story, like um,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're totally right. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's the type genre. Like, so if you go into a library and the library is divided up into different categories, right? Those are the different genres of fiction. So we've got so like there's the fantasy section, adventures, mysteries, like those types. You can ask the librarian, like, where's the animal books, whatever. But we're talking about fiction, it's just the category of fiction that it falls into. And so professional writers, writing critics, and like literature professors, they do not consider genre type fiction to be literature. Okay, there's higher standards, higher quality standards for something to be considered a work of literature. Everything else not literature that's fiction would just be considered genre fiction. It just falls into one of these categories. They feel that if a story is like confined to one of those types, then it can't be literature. They want it to be able to surpass its genre. They think that it can't speak to larger issues, that the characters are kind of flat, and that really it doesn't speak to like the human heart, issues of the human heart. But some writers go above that. They are able to rise above their genre label. And so what category did we say that The Hobbit fell into?
Fantasy, right?
Fantasy, yep, it does. It falls into the category of fantasy genre fiction. However, ways that writers can rise above just being categorized as fantasy and not as like to be classified as like classic literature, they can create really full characters that readers can resonate with, and we do that with Bilbo. We experience what he's going through, even though he's not a human, he's a hobbit, but we feel everything that he feels. We feel like we're along on the journey with him. The other ways that writers do that is through their style and through their theme, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. So these are some traits. You guys can see the screen okay, where it says what makes literature literature? Okay. Yeah, these are the qualities that are typically, there are other ones, but these are the most typical classifications for a book being classified as literature. It withstands the test of time. So it's not something that's going to be outdated in just a few years. That it deals with issues of the human heart. Hobbit does that. It contains three-dimensional characters. So we feel like we know this character very well. All the characters feel very real in The Hobbit. Can you guys give me an example of a character you might have encountered in a book or in a movie that seemed like a flat character, where it was not written very well? It felt just sort of two-dimensional, didn't have depth to it. Have you ever you can even meet a person in real life that doesn't feel like they don't have depth to them. You're just like, oh my goodness, who is this?
Well, there was somebody like that in the book, but then they became a depth person.
Okay. As the storyline progressed.
Yeah, in Narnia.
Okay.
Narnia, Eustace.
Which one?
Eustace.
Okay.
He is the Pevensey kid's cousin.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was a boring character.
Okay. And then,
Then he became this awesome dude.
okay, cool.
Kind of.
Very good.
He's still pretty boring.
Good. Good example. Anybody else? Anyone else have a example of a flat character?
Yeah. Like Mercedes, it's kind of yes, kind of no. I wrote about Thrawn in my character analysis, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's kind of flat to the sense that there's not a lot to him. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of, you just know he's always going to outsmart his opponent. The
Mm-hmm.
question is how. So it's still really intriguing. There's still a lot to his character. It's just it's not very in depth. You don't feel like you know the character. But that's part of the reason I like it, because it's a mysterious character.
Okay, cool. And so with genre fiction too, that doesn't mean that they are bad stories. There are so many like award-winning books that are wonderful stories, but they might not have all the qualities. Like they might not stand the test of time. Or we could enjoy a lighter read, like you were saying. Maybe it's not like the most fullest or deepest character, but like there's a reason that people like Hallmark movies at Christmas time. Okay, some people, not all. Anyway, but like your moms might be gathered around with their hot chocolate, watching these Hallmark movies that are like the same movie over and over. It just has different characters in it.
We were watching these Hallmark movies, and I believe it was at my grandma's house, or my grandma was there, and there's my mom, and I was watching these Hallmark things because I was not interested in their adult conversations. And whenever there'd be like a point where the two of them were about to kiss, something would interrupt them because, as my grandma would say, they don't kiss until the very end in every Hallmark thing.
It's very predictable.
And it stuck to that. They never kissed until the very end of the movie.
Yes, exactly. You know what's going to happen. It's like a horror movie too. Same thing. Like all the horror movies that are out there are basically the same type of plot, just new scary creature or whatever. Don't go into the woods at night, that type of, what's going on, but you still want to watch it. So it's like horror is a genre and genre fiction. Like you think Stephen King, he's like the king of horror fiction writing. Excellent writer, but his work would not be considered literature per se.
You want a flat character. Let me think. The kids from the Boxcar Children.
Okay.
I would say I was actually went back on a bunch of those books, and looking back on them now, the characters are extremely flat.
Okay, so you recognize that though, because now you've read and experienced books that have full characters, and you're able to tell the difference, right?
Also, I would say the stories in general are extremely flat.
Kind of predictable.
Yeah.
A little bit. So, anyway, but doesn't mean that they're bad stories. Still good stories, but you can see where we're coming from here. All right. Jumping ahead. I won't spend too much time on character archetypes because we talked about those last week in the hero's journey. But just to review briefly, tell me who would be the hero of The Hobbit. You all should answer this. Yes. Somebody else tell me who would be the mentor in The Hobbit.
Gandalf.
Gandalf.
Good. And who would you consider to be the ally in this story?
Thorin?
Could be.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely could be. Like, as I've mentioned before, some characters can sort of cross over roles throughout stories too. They may play a couple different one of these roles at different times throughout. His
Because Bilbo's the main character, but technically he's an ally to Thorin.
Yes, more clearly in the Lord of the Rings. Has anyone read the Lord of the Rings trilogy?
I've tried starting on it, but I reached a really boring part and I haven't gotten past it.
And,
I've read it, watched the movies.
And who is Frodo's ally then?
One of the names Pippin and Samwise.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, Samwise is the one that goes along for the bulk there, and also in The Hobbit too. If you think about, there was the dwarf that carried Bilbo on his back. Do you guys remember that in the beginning? I never remember his name. There's
Balin?
too many.
Bofer? Bomber? Bofer?
No, it starts with
Umbra
an L.
was the fat one.
But he is serving at that point in the story as an ally, even though he's complaining about it and doesn't like what he's doing. He's still willing to do it because it's for the greater good. A lot of times the ally does that. They will carry the hero's equipment for them, that type of thing. They're there to support the hero in multiple ways.
It was Dory.
Okay, good. Thank you. Very good.
To a lesser degree of some of the other characters, we could really say that all the dwarves are allies too.
That is true. That is very true. They are like a support system for sure. They have the same common goal in supporting the mission, right?
Yes. If the story wasn't called The Hobbit and didn't start with The Hobbit, then it would be Thorin's story. Because it's all about Thorin in this, pretty much.
It should be, yeah.
Until the end, because I know the end.
Largely. I mean, but yes, but we are the protagonist for sure is our underdog, Bilbo. Ordinary hobbit who does extraordinary things, and that's the key to the hero part, is that it's somebody that doesn't realize that they had the power within them to do whatever the call is in the journey. Does that make sense? A little bit? Okay. All right. Tell me 3 fun facts that you remember about Tolkien, the author of The Hobbit.
Liked languages.
Liked languages. That is correct. And
Was a Harvard professor.
close.
Inkling.
He was a professor at
Oxford?
Oxford.
There we go. Yes. Yes.
At an art university. There are like, who knows how many of those things.
Yes. No, you were on the right track there. So we said he liked languages, Oxford professor. What was another one?
Inkling.
Inkling. Yes, he was part of the writers group, the Inklings. Who else was Inkling? Anyone else remember? I mentioned it offhand. You guys were talking about his story.
T.S. Lewis.
Yes, very good, very good. Excellent. Okay, moving right along. Okay, so this week we talked about, we put ourselves, tried to think about and relate to Bilbo as he was missing home. You guys did an awesome job in discussions this week. This class especially was like really on it with discussions. I really appreciate that. And I've learned one thing. I need to get a new bed because everybody else said they miss their bed when they're like away from home. And I'm like, man, I'm excited to get to go sleep in a different bed when I'm traveling. So like a hotel has like the nice fluffy pillows and everything. But I'm like, oh, you guys really miss your beds. Like I think I'm missing out on something here. So very good. So keep up the good work with that. This week, we have new discussions for you guys to participate in. And I'll get to that in just a smidge, but I hope you guys are active in there just as well. And remember, you get points for participating in the discussions too. So if you haven't yet commented in our discussion group yet, please be sure to do that after class. I keep it open for our class for the full day after we have this class, just in case you still needed time to get back in there. Oh, and a really cool thing to check out, I had on the beginning slide there, I did not know this. I did not plan this. We are finishing The Hobbit this coming week, and this Sunday is National Hobbit Day. So I am so excited. That is awesome.
National Hobbit Day?
Yes.
I didn't know that was a thing. I'm very happy now.
I am so excited. Like,
That's
you guys
great.
have to go and have like second breakfast or something on that day.
I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they have 6 meals a day.
I know. You guys have to tell me how you celebrate.
So they have like 2
Bonus
breakfasts.
points for
lunch.
celebrating on Sunday. I want pictures. So, anyways, that is this Sunday, and I put up on our discussion too. If you, I have one post on there, and there is a link you can go to, and it shows like people who have actually made like their own Hobbit homes. Like it's a whole website of
So-
people who have built Hobbit homes and like live in them.
There's a Hobbit house about 25 minutes from my house. It's not very
Really?
well done, but it's great.
Ah,
It's awesome. I love it.
Lucky.
yeah, and for those of you, there were a ton that they showed in Pennsylvania. I know, like, so Owen, you need to go take pictures. Go stalk this person's house, right? No. I'm just kidding.
Where in Pennsylvania? Because I live here and I've never seen a Hobbit.
It's on the link. Click on the link that I posted in our discussion group. It tells you where it is. There's a lot in the UK too. So, anyway, so new discussion this week. All right, I'm going to jump ahead to our Dear Hobbit Diaries. I know, it was a cheesy name. I apologize for that. But it was a really cool exercise in focusing on the story element of point of view, where you had to go into a different character's perspective and how they might have seen and conveyed the events that have happened in the story. I could have just said, tell me what's happened in the story so far. No, that's not what I want. I want to make you uncomfortable and make you put yourself in Bilbo's shoes. So I'm going to skip over so that we can share. You can choose one of the entries that you don't have to read all of them, because I know we have a huge class. And if you really don't want to read yours, I respect that. Just send me a note in there when I get to yours and just say, please pass. And I won't force anyone to, but this is a really cool opportunity to share your hard work, okay? There we go. Okay, Mr. Ben. Where's Mr. Ben? He'd rather not. Oh, come on now. All right. I respect your opinion.
This was a difficult one, surprisingly.
I heard that from everybody. I had so many turn theirs in this morning, so I know it was a challenging one. But that's okay. It's good to get uncomfortable. Stretch yourself as a writer. Sammy, got to get yours turned in. Samuel, do you care to read yours? We gotta see. Don't see. Where's Samuel? Oh, if your mic works. Okay. And if it doesn't, I can read it for you too. I could read one of them if you have like a favorite of the ones that you turned in. Don't have a backup plan. That's okay. Can I read just one of them just so we can hear one?
We have 2 Sams.
Sure. Okay. Yes, we have Sammy and Samuel. Samuel.
My brain hurts.
Okay. So, dear diary, today I was visited by dwarves. All right. This wasn't the beginning of strange events. However, a weird wizard showed up to my house and asked if I wanted to go on an adventure. I thought he was crazy. I love it. I am a hobbit, I told him. I don't want to go on any adventures. I reluctantly went into my house and closed the door. It wasn't until later that night when the dwarves came. I heard a knock on the door and wondered who it could be. And then one by one, dwarves came into my house. They started eating me out of house and home. The only thing they didn't eat was the kitchen sink. And I'm going absolutely insane. Nice. Very good. That was entry 1. High five to Samuel, and thanks for letting me share that. Good work.
Sammy, I relate to your situation. Sammy Carter. I mean,
Okay, yes.
Just looking at this, I feel like a bunch of us did 3 main events. Because
Mhm.
the first one, and then the one with the trolls.
Mhm. Mhm.
Wait.
Yep.
uh,
And then he
I
did the gold ring. Yep.
think I did the exact 3 same events.
That's okay. It'll be interesting to
I
see.
think I did too.
Did you really?
Gosh darn it.
So you gotta get yours into me too. Make sure you turn that in.
We're all going to have a competition now.
Owen, will you read one of yours?
Oh no. All right.
Where's Owen? Where is he?
Give me a second. I have it over here. Let me just pick one. Eeny, meeny.
There he is. Okay.
I'll just do the first one. It's probably gonna be like 8 of these, but it's all right.
That's okay. It's all
It
right.
has been a most stressful night. We were almost chopped and boiled by a trio of trolls. Just my luck, the first time I try my hand at being a burglar, I get caught straight away and hung up by my toes. It was quite embarrassing. The dwarves tried to help me, but they had no better luck. We only escaped thanks to Gandalf's quick thinking, keeping them fighting each other until the sun came up and turned them all to stone. Serves them right, the greedy people eaters.
Nice.
what was that name? Oh my gosh, greedy people eaters.
Very good. I like it.
It made me think of purple people eater.
Yeah, me too.
Gavin. How about Gavin? Can we get a entry from Gavin?
Aww.
No. Okay, I respect your decision. Hopefully soon.
He typed.
But he turned his in, so good job on turning it in. Nice. Daniel.
That's fine, but I'm terrible at reading out loud, and my connection is iffy.
Okay.
So if you want to go ahead and read
Relate.
it's the shortest.
Okay, I can read one. Which one would you prefer?
The first one's the shortest. Go for that one.
Okay. And I have to show you, though, too, if you guys can see the screen. I really appreciated Daniel's creativity here.
I like fonts.
Oh my gosh.
Look at this. He put it into official Hobbit. He needs to see this, or you all need to see this, because that's props for extra effort there.
Yeah, my thing won't down. I use Word online, so I can't download fonts. The best writing thing I have is Comic Sans, and my
That's
brother
another
hates it when I use it. So
Okay, so entry 1 says, "My dear diary, the most wonderful and strange thing happened today. The old wizard Gandalf came by the Shire. It was, of course, wonderful to see the old man again. I had quite forgotten him at first, but he asked the strangest thing of me. He wants me to go on an adventure of all the insane notions. Of course, I turned him down profusely, but he seemed to find the whole affair quite amusing. I do hope I won't see him again, but I'm afraid I've made the mistake of inviting him to tea during my rush to get out of the situation. Perhaps he will come and have a good time and then be on his way. I'm sure I will think back to the occasion fondly, but surely will I never accept his offer of adventure. Yes, I think that will be it. A nice cup of tea, a short chat, and a good farewell. Yes, that'll do it. Whatever could go wrong? Yes, that'll be just fine indeed. Nervously, Bilbo Baggins." Very good.
did a similar approach that I did. I had a similar approach.
That was really good. You could really feel that was Bilbo.
Definitely.
Of all the insane notions.
Okay, Christopher. Where's Christopher? Yay! All right. Let me go find it.
Should we just stick on the same theme?
Go for it. And it's kind of fun to see how everybody interpret it. Like I said, I'm not looking for you to tell me what happened. I'm looking for you to tell me how you experienced it and how you feel that
Well, not us, Bilbo.
would have and how do you feel that Bilbo experienced it? Can you guys see that on the screen? I think I have to share it again. Now can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Where is Christopher? I don't have him on my screen. There he is. Okay.
Okay. One quiet morning, now a long time ago, I was standing at my door after breakfast, smoking my long wooden pipe while talking to an old man with a staff and a big blue hat. A quite odd man it seemed he was, For example, when I said good morning to him, expecting a response something like good morning to you as well, or something like that, he responded with, what do you mean? And then went on to ask what exactly I mean by saying good morning. Then a bit after a bit of some other quite awkward conversation, he explained that he was looking for someone to go on an adventure with him and how it was very hard to find anyone willing to. I should think so in these parts, I replied, explaining to him how everyone around here are plain and quiet folk and are not interested in going on adventures. So I got out my morning letters and started reading them. So after a few minutes, the odd man was still standing there. Good morning, I again said to him, rather annoyed. We don't want any adventures here, thank you. And I told him to go look somewhere else. But the man again responded with something very odd, saying that I sure do have a lot of uses for good morning and how he thought that one was trying to get rid of him, and he actually was right. I was now feeling very disgusted with the man, but still trying to be polite. I said that I was not trying to get rid of him and asked him what his name was. To my surprise, he responded, again very oddly, by saying that he knows my name and that I know his, but I just don't remember he belongs to it. I am Gandalf, and Gandalf means me, he told me. Gandalf? Oh dear, Gandalf. I hadn't seen or heard of that wizard for a long time. I then was recalling all the old memories and tales I had heard about him. Then for a while my brain went somewhere else. I was still trying to be polite, but somewhat flustered. I have a feeling I was somewhat rude. After more awkward and odd conversation, this is how it ended. I invited him over for tea the next day. What a mistake.
Nice, very good. Is that's end of entry 1?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Excellent. It's fun hearing the different, even though like same incidences in different perspectives. Okay, let me.
Hello.
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 All right, get back on my screen. Whoops. No, it's not one. Sorry, there are weird like bars that I have to work around on this screen, and I always have to wait for like. There we go. Okay. Nope. No, wrong one. Stop. Okay. Cool. Isaac. Yay? Nay? Where's Isaac?
Did no.
Where'd he go? There he is. Yeah. Oh, you said no? Okay. I respect your decision, even though it makes me cry. Okay.
Hey.
Wait, whose is this one? I can't see. Mercedes. Okay. Yes, Mercedes. Would you? I know you're gonna want to read. So let's get. Which one would you like to share? Where's Mercedes?
Can you scroll down a bit? I'm trying to remember what I actually wrote. Can you scroll down?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do the middle one.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
This was so rushed. Okay. I am currently in a cave with the dwarves and Gandalf, who are all fast asleep. There's a terrible storm raging outside, and the rock giants are hurling boulders everywhere. Thank goodness we found this cave, though. Originally, we were taking shelter under an overhang, but it didn't provide much protection at all. Anyways, I better be off to sleep now.
Okay, good. That's exactly what we're looking for. So those of you guys who are still working on them and turning them in, it doesn't have to be long. It can be short, just a little journal entry, but just put yourself in Bilbo's shoes and how he would have experienced what we are going through. And then Tegan, would Tegan like to share hers? Yay, nay? I can read it. Oh, cool. Yay. Which one? 1, 2, or 3? You can pick the first one. Okay. So, dear diary, I will have you know that I am not writing this on my cozy bed as I usually would, but on the back of a pony in the middle of who knows where. Why, you may ask? Well, I have made a decision that I am sure to and already do regret. I am going on an adventure with 13 dwarves to reclaim their treasure from a dragon. Yes, a dragon. I may never return from this adventure, so I figured I would document it. Wish me luck, Bilbo. Nice. Good job. Great work. Awesome.
Give him a reason.
I think that's it. That's all we have. Okay, good deal. Well, if any of you all want to share yours later, that's fine. But thank you for turning those in. And you still have later, you can turn it in later to me today if possible. Because we're good. It'd be great if you could turn it in today, because we're going to be starting up with more work for for our next class. So you don't want to get behind on that too. All right, let me move to my other screen. Okay. And here's my notes. Alrighty, so next, all right, we'll talk homework. So, and like I mentioned, we are finishing up The Hobbit this week. So you should have read through chapter 12 for today. If you haven't done so, please do that and then just finish up the book, because we'll be starting on our next book the week after next. And I thought I had a copy of mine here. I don't know where it went. Anyways, we have Frankenstein up next. Although I did put out, because we have such a wide range of students, we have all levels and from 8th through 10th, 11th grade up. So I sent a message to your parents, and you can talk to them about this. If you have Frankenstein and the language, so Frankenstein, because we had such a wide, there's a big gap, between 8th grade and 11th grade. And so I tried to throw in a mix of reading levels for all to cover all those bases. And Frankenstein is British literature, and it can be more challenging if reading that type of language is a struggle, and you want to wait until later in high school when you get to British Lit. You can hold off on reading Frankenstein till then. I do encourage you to read it at some point. Your other option is to read Treasure Island, and we will be talking about the same topics in each book, but it's just giving you an option if the language is too challenging or thick at this point for you. I mean, obviously you will get there for sure. I know all of you will. And I do encourage you, like, if you are up for it, go for it. Because Frankenstein's tremendous. We're going to be going through it regardless. But I'm just giving a second option that you can talk to your parents about if you would like to read Treasure Island. There's no stigma to it at all, I promise. And you don't even have to tell anyone else which one you're reading. So, because all the activities will be based around a concept, not just specifics from the story per se, anything that we'd be sharing anyways. So with that, we'll be finishing up The Hobbit. You'll participate in your online discussions for next week. And the next thing that we're going to be talking about, we've talked about characters. This past week, you experienced point of view and putting yourself in retelling a situation from another character's perspective. That's point of view. This week, we are talking about conflict. This is a famous photograph, and I think it's really cool. This is an actual photograph that happened. It was like a news picture. And I don't know where it was, but I was reading about it, and I just thought it was so neat, because if you look really closely at this image, you see that there's this little dude like in the middle of in the doorway, and he's just like chilling. He's not like, that would be me. I would be in a ball with my knees like crying
I'd be inside.
Yeah. No. So apparently what happened, according to the news story, was that this shot was taken from helicopters and the helicopter was taking the photograph, and this poor guy in the lighthouse thought that it was like rescue helicopters coming to save him, and it was just like people taking pictures. So he just like walks out though, and he's just like, oh, okay. And then he went back inside. But I mean, he did get rescued. They did send them out after immediately. But just calm in the storm. That's such a hard thing for us as humans.
Guy's hands in his pockets.
Yeah, exactly. So I just thought
he's
that
a mad lad. It doesn't really matter to him that there's a.
I don't know. I think that you can know. So conflict plays a major part of every single story, even the story in our own lives. It's used to shape us. It's used to shape characters. And because we start out one way, we go through conflict. And that is what, it helps form us and mold us into who we are, for better or for worse, hopefully for better. In a good story, your character will be changed for the better because of the conflict that they go through. You can see here in this image, this is a standard picture of story arc. For those of you who have had any of the writers in residence classes that I've taught, you're pretty familiar with this. Although I would change this visual a little bit, where you see how it's like longer on one side and a little bit shorter on the other side of the mountain. It really should be like half that size. The resolution mark should be kind of up still in like where the snow area is on the right hand side of that image. Because so what happens in every story, there's the exposition, and that's kind of like where all the characters are introduced. You get any backstory information that you need. As you saw in The Hobbit, what happened in the exposition? Mercedes.
He met Gandalf and the dwarves.
Yeah,
and they kind of sung their songs, which kind of told their story.
He didn't wait to like stagger them in throughout. He just like dumped them in his living room. He's like, okay, here's all the main characters right here. Here you go. So they were there in the exposition. The inciting incident then is there's always, in every story, there is a call to action and an event that sort of kicks off the whole story. What would you say would be the inciting incident in The Hobbit? And you can have like some different thoughts on this. I've read some different thoughts on this. What do you guys think?
It's odd because it almost seems like before the exposition when Gandalf shows up.
Before Gandalf shows up?
No, when Gandalf shows up, which is before the exposition a little bit.
Right. Yes. No, that is true. That could be considered part of it.
They do start dumping a lot of stuff about Gandalf. He's he's the firework wizard. That's it.
Yes, we do learn a lot about him in the exposition for sure. Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Yes, I hear you, Mercedes.
Okay. The inciting incident. I kind of see two possibilities, and so there's the first part where he wakes up in the morning and he thinks nothing's happening, and then Gandalf tells him, hey, you got to catch up with those guys. I feel like that's when this story train starts rolling.
It's all right in there.
It starts accelerating.
Yeah, it's a little tricky to pinpoint the exact moment. For me, I personally feel, and I've read different opinions on this, so this is just me, but I think it is kind of when, so Bilbo receives the call to action, and he's like passed out, he's in the other room, and he hears them like talking about him, like, Gandalf, what are you thinking? This guy? Are you kidding me? And it's like all of a sudden, like that tookish side of him and his own pride together, which makes him very human and relatable. Because how many of you have ever experienced that? You've like heard someone say, oh, they'll never be able to do that or whatever. And you're like, oh yeah, watch me and take pictures. Okay. So I kind of feel like it was that moment. That's how I experienced it anyways. It's like where that wells up within him and he's like, oh yeah, we're doing this. And then he gets on the adventure and he's like, what are we doing? I don't know. What did I just get myself into? So to me,
It's like a dare.
yeah,
Or like
he
they,
accepts it as a
it's
person.
like in truth or dare, where they ask you truth or dare, and you say truth, and they're like, "Oh, don't be a wimp." So you change it to dare, and then they give you this dare, like
Yeah,
something,
exactly.
like ridiculous that nobody would do.
Yeah. So to me personally, like when he accepts the call, even though it's like coming from a really odd place for him, I feel like that's kind of like the kickoff moment when he's going on it for sure. But it's all right around that area, and it could be debated for sure. But then from there on, once there's been the call to action, the rest and the most of the book, I'd say, other than like this little like section here, all of this would be considered like rising action. It's like events after events after events that are happening and building. It's the writer. So a good writer will just, it's a hard thing being a writer of fiction, because you've created this character that you can relate to and you feel for, you're rooting for this character, and you have to throw this character like nonstop to make them be changed, to be shaped, for better or for worse, to either overcome or be taken down and rise back up again from these challenges. Conflict is all about this area here, leading up to the climax. The climax is like the high point of the story where there is a turning point. And that's where your character is going to have changed one way or the other. Either the goal of the story, whatever they were after, is going to be achieved, or it won't. And that happens in that moment at the climax there, like so at the top. And then if you think about it, then the rest of the story, that's why I say I think this graphic is off, and that it really, the resolution and the falling action is just a smidge. It's not that far. It's just kind of like giving the reader a sense of closure as to what happened after that turning point. What happened to them afterwards, you want to know, and just kind of like sets you back on ease again, or maybe leads on to another sort of a, what do you call it, a cliffhanger could be in that situation, but it still has to have enough resolution to be satisfying to the reader. So this week we are talking about conflicts, and there are different types of conflicts, and I will either have Isaac short lecture, or I might just put it into a document, because there's not that much to cover, but it's important enough that you understand the different types of conflict that there are. And the first type of conflict we're going to be doing our writing assignments on this week is the conflict that is called character versus nature. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a character versus nature. So if you look at the image on the screen, these are some characters, and they're battling the elements, okay? So say they're trying to get up to the top of Mount Everest or something. They're going to be battling like avalanches or winds and extreme conditions. That's your character having to go through situations with nature. So I want you, the first step of this the writing assignment for this week is to look through the book, and well, hopefully you've done the reading so that you have lots of scenes to pull from. And I want you to find an example or a scene from The Hobbit that demonstrates a conflict between character versus nature. I'll put up a few, maybe I'm not going to give you any information about it because I want you to tell me about it, okay? And so you're going to write up a short paragraph that retells the conflict in your own words, which means you have to do the reading. So you'll find an example of where a character versus nature in here. Can you guys think of one off the top of your head? Anyone come to mind? Daniel?
When they're walking through the misty mountains and on that cliff and the rock slide. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Anyone else think of another one that off the top of their head that comes to mind?
The snowstorm that leads them into the goblin caves.
The storm. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yes, so those would all be examples of character versus nature. So I want you to to find that scene in the book that you want to write about that shows that, and then just retell it in just a real short paragraph, letting me know what one you're choosing and what happened in that scene. Then what you're going to do is you are going to think of a time when you personally experienced a conflict with nature. And I'm pretty sure, like, by this point in your life, most of you have experienced at some point some form of conflict with nature. Like something got rained out, your power went out because of a snowstorm. You got Christopher is living with conflict of nature in Minnesota, like half of like the year, like where there's like snow piled up and you can't go boating on the lake. That's a conflict with nature when you can't go enjoy your lake because of all the snow. No, for sure. In last February, my family and I went to Disney, and it just downpoured the entire day. So like that was like conflict with nature. So think there has to be something that happened that you can relate to. And I want you to write it up in a paragraph and tell what happened. Okay. You're just going to explain that scene from your own life that happened. Try to include some really strong action words. In Writers in Residence, we call them vigorous verbs, but like help your readers to see the action as clearly as possible. Work on trying to add in some like strong action words and specific nouns. Those are also ways to help paint a really clear picture. Because as we're doing this exercise, it's also about improving your writing skills at the same time. So work on trying to help your readers see exactly what you experienced in that moment. The third thing for this assignment that you're doing, so you've got your paragraph from the book, 2, your own example from your own life, and then 3, you're going to write a third paragraph to this that ties or connects your story to that scene from The Hobbit, okay? It could be even just relating, you can understand how the characters felt because you've experienced this type of frustration before, or you felt like you were, had rocks stumbling on you. I don't know. I hope you didn't have rocks stumbling on you. But it's just, that's an example. You're able to relate, make a connection in some way with the scene that you choose to something that happened in your own life. Okay. This is all about making connections and working on improving our writing skills, all in that. All right. So that is your first assignment for writing this week. And it's only 3 paragraphs. So it sounds like a lot of stuff, but really, some of it will be planning that will take a little bit of time. Yes, Mercedes.
So do we put the...
Oh, I can't hear you.
Do we put... Can you hear me now?
Say that again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So do we put Bilbo's conflict with nature and my conflict with nature in the same document?
Yes, it'll be one document. Yeah. 1 document, 3 paragraphs. Okay.
For each story or in total?
You only have to choose one scene.
No, I mean for Bilbo's story and my story, do they each have to be 3 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs total?
No, 3 paragraphs total. That's what I'm saying. It's not that complicated because I have another writing assignment for you. This is just helping me to know that you have read the book and that you know how to make connections to the text. Okay, that's the main goal of it. And then your next thing is another type of conflict, which is character versus character. Okay, this one I hope you guys will have a little bit of fun with. Okay, so I'm giving some options for creativity with this project. You can choose several different ways to approach this, okay? And again, I'll explain a little bit more about what character versus character conflict is, but it's, again, pretty self-explanatory. You can get from the title what kind of conflict it is. 2 characters, right? Okay, so you're going to choose a scene again from The Hobbit that reflects this type of conflict. And you're going to write me up a paragraph about that. Or you can create a drawing or a short comic that describes that scene, explaining what happened either in your own words or through illustration, okay? I will even allow for further creativity, okay? It doesn't have to be drawing. I know not everybody likes to draw, that sort of thing. There's a lot of musicians in this group. Come up with something musical that kind of embodies the scene, that is a character versus character. Any movie that you watch when there is like a fight scene happening, there's music going on, okay? Come up with some music that would accompany a scene from this book, okay? And see if because there's a way that you can upload an audio file on there too. You can make it yourself. There's people who have bands in this classroom, so this could be sort of fun. But we have people in here who like Legos. You can build a scene out of Legos from The Hobbit that shows character versus character. This is all about creativity. Yes.
What if you have a Hobbit set?
Then you are in luck. We are going to put that thing to use this week. Dig it out. Build it, take a picture of it, upload it, okay? Then, there's a second part to it though. So then I want you to also either write or draw or create in some way your own character versus character conflict action scene that depicts a conflict between two characters. This could be an action scene involving the fictional character that we just made up like a few weeks ago, or it could be, you could make up a different one. You could be writing about one from an action scene from a movie that you have seen or from a comic that you're familiar with. Just one event, one scene. You could even write about like two real life characters, like your siblings. They're constantly fighting or something. Write about it. All right. Use lots of vigorous verbs. Use lots of action words to paint a clear picture. Now, I will say this because I've had this happen in other classes I've taught in my co-op. Action scene does not have to mean violent scene, okay? Keep it PG. We don't want to read about people being impaled on poles and things like that. I've had that in other classes. So, yeah, try to keep it something that your younger siblings could watch if it was a movie, okay? So if you have questions on whether or not it's acceptable or not to try this creative approach, let me know. But first, you have to choose the scene from the book to do, okay? And then make up your own or pull from one that you have read about somewhere else, not in The Hobbit, or in a movie or something, video game, anything, okay? This is an opportunity. I want you guys, like I said, writing is largely about your own passions and authenticity and pouring yourself into your work. So this is a great way to express it, especially if you have the ideas in your head and you're still working on refining your writing skills. The ideas themselves are like half the struggle. So let's work on communicating clearly here. Okay, yes, very good. I'm excited. All right, anyone have questions? Bring them on. This group over here, I can't see. There they are. Anyone questions, concerns, comments? Are you freaked out? Are you like?
I am so excited for the character one.
Cool.
I have no idea what I'm gonna do for the nature one because I'm never in nature.
So, and again, I will highly suggest, so if you have work that was due this week, turn it in today as quick as possible because you want to spend as much time developing your ideas and finding your scenes in the book. So that all will take time. The planning stages will take time. So don't shortchange yourself in thinking that you can get it all done like the night before class. You're not going to be able to do all of it then. So try to work on it throughout the week, space it out. If you go to our course page and go to modules, where it's module 4 this week, and you'll see the assignments for the week. It's kind of broken up by days as a suggestion on how you can approach it. But yeah, try not to let it all build up. Okay, sound good? All right, I apologize, we're a little bit over time, but I hope you guys have an awesome week. Do not forget to finish reading the book, okay? All right. Have a good week, everyone. I will see you all next week.
I have a question.
Yes. All right.
For the character versus character, does our made up or brought from scene have to connect to the scene from The Hobbit like the character versus nature story did?
No, that one does not. That was an excellent question. That was an excellent question. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is just to show that you know what a character versus character conflict is. Here's sound, turn around and look up. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Questions, concerns? We good? All right. I'll see everyone next week. Then just email me if you think of anything as you begin the process, okay? Bye.
Bye.